NTA International News.
Acting President Yemi Osinbajo harps on the need to learn from events of the past in advancing the course of our greater future. Another breakthrough as troops of Operation Lafia Dole clear Boko Haram terrorists and capture gun trucks. China projects economic growth of 6.5% of 2017 as this year's National Congress opens. Hello, it's my pleasure to welcome you to NTA International News. I'm Nancy Godi Angonihu. Acting President Yemi Osinbajo says learning from events of the past provides better steps into a greater future. The acting president, Osinbajo, while inaugurating the Olusegun Obasanjo Presidential Library in Abuja, says the history being preserved by individuals about society becomes more historic and impactful through selfless service. State House correspondent Jide Onifade reports.
Very few human beings have the chance to make history, and fewer still have the fortune of both making and writing it. The acting president said as he observed the humble beginning of former President Olusegun Obasanjo and the history he has made over the last 80 years of his existence. His life history, which the acting president noted, is tied to the history of Nigeria a few years after independence, which is well captured through his writings and preservation of artifacts.
Aside from all else, his enduring legacy will be his belief in one strong, detribalized Nigeria, and also his belief in words and in practice, in an Africa united in vision and purpose.
Describing the former president as a bridge builder, cutting across all peoples in Nigeria and the rest of the world, acting President Osinbajo is of the view that learning from the events of the past would be a better step into a great future.
I'm sure that as visitors to this library, especially young people, walk through this magnificently creative place, they will learn from both what they see and hear, but perhaps more what is unsaid, that our place in history, the history of our society, is not what we manage to take from it, but what we manage to give it. The more selfless the giving, the more historic.
Former President Olusegun Obasanjo, whose 80th birthday is being celebrated, speaks of inspiration behind the library.
When I came to realize how much vital materials that should have been preserved from the Civil War and from our period of military government were allowed to waste carelessly, then I tried to see what could be salvaged, recovered, and preserved, but not much, except some materials on the civil service or on the Civil War from both sides of the divide, which I was able to microfilm. Materials were lost, and lessons were learned.
Liberian President and Chairperson of the Economic Community of West African States, Ellen Sirleaf Johnson, spoke on behalf of other presidents and heads of governments, as well as leaders of international organizations present at the occasion.
History will bear truth to this precedent-setting presidential initiative.
Apart from the library complex, the acting president and other guests also went on tour of a museum where the relics of war preserved by former President Olusegun Obasanjo were kept. In Abuja, Ogun State, Jide Onifade, NTA News.
Troops of Operation Lafia Dole in the northeast Saturday had an encounter with Boko Haram terrorists at Chikungudu, northern part of Borno State. In a statement, Brigadier General Sani Kukasheka Usman, Director, Army Public Relations, said, during the encounter, the gallant troops neutralized quite a number of the terrorists, while others escaped with gunshot wounds. The troops also captured gun trucks, arms and ammunition, as well as 14 terrorists. Others include 2 Toyota gun trucks stolen from Niger Republic Defense Force, 2 Toyota Hilux gun trucks, one of which was taken by the Boko Haram terrorists from 153 Task Force Battalion location some time back, 25 HP Yamaha, as well as other arms and ammunition. The troops also recovered and destroyed over 70 motorcycles used by terrorists to launch attacks, 3 shops stocked with medical supplies, 3 other shops with provisions, and 3 wooden boats. The statement said 4 soldiers were wounded and have been taken to a medical facility where they are receiving treatment. President Catholic Bishops' Conference of Nigeria, the Most Reverend Ignatius K. Gama, has tasked religious leaders to relentlessly call for sanity and the equitable distribution of national resources in order to rebirth a country anchored on true love and genuine service to God. He said this at the first plenary of the conference in Abuja, and Joseph Johnson was there.
There are bishops of the Catholic faith, but also there are humans, and the impact of the present economic situation in the country on Nigerians affects them too. The theme of this meeting is Nigeria, Citizenship Rights and Responsibilities. This explains why deliberations here did not just center on making Christian Association of Nigeria CAN stronger and devoid of materialistic distractions, but corruption and security issues were once again on the front burner.
Christian leaders must focus more on initiatives that promote ecumenical unity, speak in a united voice on serious national issues, and not in disjointed prophetic utterances that are sometimes not more than mere personal, political, or commonsensical projections.
The plenary was tied to the beginning of the Lent season as Catholic faithful earlier gathered in their numbers at Our Lady Queen of Nigeria Pro Cathedral for Mass celebration.
It seems to me that we will need to invest more efforts into political dialogue, de-radicalization, and reconciliation strategies.
Prayers were offered for the church, country and quick recovery for President Muhammadu Buhari. Joseph Johnson, NTA News.
A Kano-bound freight train had an accident in Osogbo Saturday. Although no life was lost, property worth billions of naira were destroyed as a result of the accident. Tunji Adepoju reports.
The northbound train carried among others.
We have invited our pharmacists and their registered products. That is why we are about to be here since morning. So that, but we have never opened the one in the container because we don't have the mandate to open somebody's luggage behind him. That is why, but the one that fell, the one we don't know what is inside.
The divisional commander of the Olorunda local government area of the Nigerian security.
Already, some people are seen trying to vandalize the goods inside the other part. But we have checkmated that, we have prevented that. And that's the reason why we still have some of these goods intact.
Trust some evildoers. This bus was around even in the odd hours of the day when the accident occurred. The driver and his assistant were said to be trying to steal goods from the wagons. The motorboy is now in police cell at the railway station while the driver escaped. Those who comment supported government warning to traders.
They should not sell market or to do something beside this rail. Please, we are now using this medium to let those people that they are still there to evacuate their property.
Well, many people have seen the accident. Most people selling cloth and glass in that place. We have already warned them. They should leave this area.
Because of this accident, it's too dangerous.
This is the wreckage of the Kano-bound train, which had accident early this morning around 3 a.m. Emergency workers, comprising men of the U.S. Civil Defense and Security Corps in Osun State, and other workers are on the ground to make sure that there is no further disturbance to the traffic and there is no further disturbance side that other information has it that there was loss of life in the accident, and the rail line was accepted up to a police station to their equal. NTA News.
You're watching the news on NTA International. Stay tuned for more reports.
Have you been thinking about coming to Nigeria? Then what are you waiting for? Come share in our wealth of vast resources. Come discover treasure. Come to where there's lots of business opportunities. Nigeria. Nigeria, my nation, my pride.
Thank you for remaining with us. And in another effort to restore peace in southern Kaduna, Acting President Professor Yemi Osinbajo has met with traditional and religious leaders of the area in Government House, Kaduna. He said, as the custodians of their people, they owe a duty to ensure that peace and unity reign, as no meaningful development can be achieved in an atmosphere of rancor. Mohammed Umaru Arjingi reports.
The acting president, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, interacted with the representatives of Christian Association of Nigeria, its sister organization, Jamaatul Nasrul Islam, traditional rulers, security agencies, as well as the leadership of the Meti Allah Cattle Breeders Association. The deliberations brought to fore issues hindering the progress of peace building in southern Kaduna, and ways to tackle the challenges in no distant time.
Recent steps that have been taken are an answer to the cry of some of us, and that is the full establishment of the presence of security.
To create such a forum where they will obtain direct information from the people that are affected.
We grew up in southern Kaduna, a very peaceful area. Myself that I'm talking to you here, I was sponsored throughout my education by a Japan.
After listening to submissions by the representatives of the various groups, the acting president called on aggrieved parties to give peace a chance. The government will do everything within its power to curtail further breakdown of law and order in the area.
I want to express my very sincere condolences to all of those who have lost family, lost friends, and who have been traumatized by the terrible things that have happened in southern Kaduna in the past few months. But I must say that there is no question whatsoever that violence and enmity and hatred will never solve any of the problems that we're experiencing today. There's no way that they will be resolved in that way.
Governor Nasiru Ahmad El-Rufai of Kaduna State said government will not spare anyone involved in quelling the crisis, no matter how highly placed the individual is in the society.
Peace is a choice. The government cannot force anyone to live in peace. What the government can do is to use its coercive power to bring anyone that engages in violence to account. We can only have peace when people choose to live in peace.
Southern Kaduna has experienced several crises in recent times, which resulted in loss of lives and property worth millions of naira.
Minister of Foreign Affairs Jeffrey Onyama says the non-restitution of illicit funds stashed in foreign banks is affecting the socio-economic growth and rights of development of Nigeria. The minister said this at the high-level segment of the 34th Human Rights Council in Geneva, Switzerland. Gabriel Odu reports.
The minister noted that the non-repatriation of stolen funds back to Nigeria is also hindering the anti-corruption drive of the government. The minister used the platform of the 34th Human Rights Council to thank donor agencies and humanitarian organizations for their assistance to internally displaced persons and refugees.
And in essence, at the end of the day, an amount just below 700 million was raised, of which about 4.5 million was available for 2017 for this year. And we're also hopeful that some of the other major donors whose budget cycle was not now would also come on stream.
Nigeria is seeking re-election into the 47th member council for the 2018-2020 term. This, the minister said, will place Nigeria in a vintage position to defend Nigeria's interest where there is negative interference on human rights issues in the country. Gabriel Udu, NTA News.
Chinese Prime Minister Li Keqiang has projected an economic growth of 6.5% or more for the year 2017. The Prime Minister also promised deep economic reforms, even as the country opens up more for trade and cooperation with outside world. Julieta Aino reports from the 5th session of the 12th National People's Congress in Beijing.
The world turned its spotlights on Chinese Prime Minister Li Keqiang as he delivered the report on the work of the government to the joint session of the National Committee of the Chinese People's Political Consultative Conference and the National People's Congress. Starting with the stable economic performance and the employment growth which exceeded projections in 2016, Prime Minister Li said 13.14 million new urban jobs were added. He highlighted advances in the reform and opening up, as well as economic adjustments that launched the service sector to 51.6% of the country's GDP.
When we look at the expenditure, the GDP being at 74, over 74%, a trillion yuan, that's quite a lot of money, and the organization, the arrangement, and also they recognize the challenges they face and try to look at the way of combating those challenges.
The 41-page report, which took Prime Minister Li Keqiang almost 2 hours to deliver, contained improvements in infrastructure like the addition of new rail lines, new paved roads, water conservation projects, and others. He said some of the major projects of the year 2016 were the successes in keeping economic performance within range, the strengthening of areas of weakness, and putting measures to improve the living standards and stronger benefit for the Chinese people.
The fact that they removed more than 10 million people out of poverty is something Africa can learn from. They carry out studies for whatever they are going to do, and they do local consultations. They meet with the stakeholders at the grassroots, and they have a detailed report. So it's not just like they say in pidgin English, talk, but it is real work that the Chinese are doing.
Prime Minister Li revealed that GDP growth for 2017 is projected at 6.5% or higher if possible. He set target for over 11 million new urban jobs with urban development rate at 4.5%. The Chinese premier said the government will continue to encourage new businesses and innovations while taking steps to improve product quality. From Beijing, China, Julieta Aino, NTA News.
And time to bring you more stories making the rounds across the globe with Oku Ebenyong.
We begin from Africa, where Somalia's Prime Minister Hassan Ali has announced the death of at least 110 people due to hunger and malnutrition. The announcement followed the warning by Somali government last week, describing the drought in the country as a national disaster. At least 2.9 people are faced with malnutrition, while government promised to do its best and also urged all Somalis to help save the dying Somalis, mostly children and the elderly. And from Libya comes the reports that rival armed factions are fighting for control over crucial oil terminals in the east of Libya. Reports say the forces of the military strongman Khalif Haftar, who have been in control of the oil crescent since September, lost ground. 4 oil terminals in the area provide much of Libya's export income. Away from Africa, U.S. President Donald Trump has accused Barack Obama of ordering his phones to be tapped during the election campaign and asked to be investigated by Congress. The president's press secretary said the inquiry into alleged Russian interference in the election should also probe whether executive powers were abused. Mr. Trump made the claims in a series of tweets but offered no evidence. Oku Ekpayong, NTA News.
Andy Murray beats Fernando Verdasco in straight sets to win the 2017 Dubai Open Tennis Championship. Let's now join Chukwunonso Breze for details of this and highlights of some major sporting events in the week gone by.
Hello and a warm welcome to Sports Roundup. With just days to the March 16th CAF general elections, President of the Nigeria Football Federation, Amaju Pinnick, early last week received the much-needed